live stream producers, but pass over to our host for this evening, Naomi.
Hi, hello. Well, welcome to Watch Moths. We're really looking forward to this broadcast this evening. We've got a lot ready and waiting and exciting and artistic and mothy and energetic. So welcome to the show tonight. Just for the new people here, Watch Moths is part of the Moths to a Flame programme of and project, which we're taking to COP26. And we are part of Art and Energy, the Art and Energy Collective, which is a group of artists and scientists and makers and creatives all working in the face of the climate emergency and thinking creatively, imagining a new future in some way or other. And we have been funded by the Arts Council and a crowdfunder, and we work in partnership with the Plymouth Energy community. We've got a wide range of community energy groups interested in this project, but it all started in Plymouth, so thank you to all those. Moths to a Flame is going to be this massive mass participation installation, art installation in Glasgow in the Botanic Gardens as part of COP26. And we are aiming for 20,000 homemade recycled milk bottle plastic moths, and also a whole host of messages in all sorts of ways to provide an audio to go with that installation. And so this broadcast is providing a place for us all to get to know moths better, because they're the star of this show, and also to think about moths as a metaphor for our relationship with energy. So we're working today on well, there's three themes really today, and they thread their way through this evening and this in the morning. I mean, the first one is about our use of our imagination and creativity to drive a new way forward to become more resilient in the face of the climate change. And the second one is probably about observation and observation of the changes taking place. So observation of nature, very careful, close observation of what's going on around us, and also understanding the changes that are happening. So that's another thread. And then the third one is about COP26 itself. COP26 has a whole load of themes within it, and energy is one of those, and it has got various strands trying to resolve those strands. And this one today that we're thinking about is supporting communities to move away from fossil fuels, the fossil fuel economy, and think of other ways of providing their energy. So those three: imagination and art, the role of sort of observation, and then getting people working out how they can reduce their use of fossil fuels. So I think now is the time to welcome the presenters. I think I've talked enough about what the programme is going to be. We have there's Sarah Shuttleworth out in a campsite, I think, Sarah.
Yes, I'm coming to you from a campsite that is about 4 minutes from my own house, but that's our way of camping. In Somerset here, you can see got our tent set up, but also got my moth trap set up. So all ready for tonight. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And there's Sarah Gillespie, artist and moth-er, who came last year to Watch Moths and explained a bit about how she made her prints. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, from Blackawton in South Devon.
Thank you. See you later. And then we've got Alastair Mumford from Devon County Council, but also interested in this whole agenda.
Yeah, hi there, everyone.
Hello. And you have a little sprout with you?
Yes, for a little bit, and then she'll
Yeah.
have to go to bed, but yes.
Yeah, nice to see you. And Clare Mains from Plymouth Energy Community. Hi, Claire.
Hello from Plymouth. My little sprout is watching Gardener's World currently, so we shouldn't be interrupted for at least the next hour.
Good, or not, I don't know. And then we have Chloe.
Hello.
Hi,
Hiya.
Chloe. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to showing you the moth trap that I made with my dad a bit later.
yeah, great. I'm looking forward to that too, because I haven't seen it in ages. And then there's Simon Stennet from the RSPB here. Hello, Simon.
Hello from Heavy Tree in Exeter. Hi, yeah, I'm here to gonna sneak a trap into the garden here and do some stuff revealed tomorrow. But I'm also here to talk about metamorphosis and what happens inside pupas.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And then we got Jenny, who you've already met. I think I haven't forgotten anybody. Tomorrow morning.
Everybody.
Pardon?
You've got everybody.
Yeah, tomorrow morning we have Simon Bates and we have Giovanna Speciale from London. So we've got more input in the morning from a different place. So now I think it's time to move on to the first part of our session, which is Chloe. Hello, Chloe, again.
Hello.
On. So do you want to show us?
I'm going to show you, but I hope you don't mind. I'm going to just switch to my phone.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be able to see me
outside. Hello. Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so I wanted to show you the moth trap that I made with my dad a little while ago. And I'm going to just turn my phone around and just show how easy it is to make a moth trap out of stuff you can find on Free Cycle and in the scrap store. So this, I don't know whether you can see, is an old IKEA laundry box that I found on Free Cycle for £5. And inside, you can see that I've lined it with some white material that I found in the scrap store, and I've attached some wood to the edges so that I could support some bits of acrylic. So this moth trap, basically the moths fly in and they fall down and they go onto the egg boxes in the same way that they do with most other moth traps. And here is a UV light that I just found on eBay for £15. So all in all, this whole trap cost me about £20 to make in total. And I'm really excited. So I've got this, I feel very fortunate because I have this outdoor switch that means that I can shine it on, and hopefully this top bit is going to protect it a little bit from the rain tonight. And it's sort of move aboutable. I put it on some casters so that I could more or less put it where I wanted. I mean, I don't have the most vegetation filled garden, but I'm hoping that that light will be bright enough to attract some moths tonight anyway.
Well, you usually, Chloe, if you can hear me, you usually get moths in your bathroom, don't you?
Yeah, so that was my first kind of free way of, well, I suppose free, I had to pay for the electricity. That was the cheaper way that I found of making a moth trap with the boys. And my boys and I, we just basically opened the window of the bathroom, closed the door to the bathroom and left the light on. And we got quite a few moths in that way, but nothing as kind of big or pretty as I'm hoping to get in this moth trap tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cross fingers for that too. There's a question in chat actually that says, does it have to be a UV light to attract, or can it be any kind of light?
So I would experiment with any kind of light, but the reason why I chose the UV light is because when we were working with Katie at the University of Exeter, and we were doing some research into moth's eyes and the ultra absorbency of light of moth's eyes, which we used for making our solar panel artworks. She talked about how moths were particularly attracted to UV light and that particular range of light. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to put a UV light. And lots of the bulbs that you see advertised on moth traps seem to be UV lights. So that's why I chose that one, but I expect you could have a go with anything. Given that it works in my in my bathroom without a UV bulb, I expect you could put any bulb there.
That's very true, and bulbs actually are going to be a bit of a theme throughout this morning. I think if anybody has any who's watching who has particular experience with particular bulbs on their moth traps, please share it, because we get a lot of questions, don't we, about that. And the other thing, Chloe, that we were going to talk about as an intro was where we're up to with our 20,000 moths. How successful we've been so far.
So we have quite a way to go to meet our 20,000 moths. However, over the last month, we've been receiving moths from all over the world into the plot in Plymouth, where we're asking people to send them. And so far, we think that we've got nearly 7,000 moths that have been made. So we're hoping that people are going to get really busy with making moths over the next month, because ideally we'll have all of the moths that we need by October. So we have about 13,000 moths to make throughout September.
Yeah.
I'm quite nervous about that. But there are some people here today who've been really helping us to make moths. So I'm particularly thinking about Catherine Munro, who volunteered to run a moth making activity for us, for the project at the Film Park by Ivy Bridge BioBlitz. And I hope, she made some beautiful moths. So hopefully we'll get a lot more like that.
Yeah. And the progress on the other moths, the other elements of our project, like the audio, all the messages we're getting. We've got a few hundred of those, haven't we? A few hundred messages so far.
We do, yeah. We have a few hundred messages. We definitely need more of those messages. And it's very interesting. I've wondered about why it is that people struggle to find something to say yet. And I have a feeling that part of that's been to do with COVID and people's minds being full of other things. And now that we're in that run up to COP, I'm hoping that it will be easier for people to find what they want to say, what they to people who are going to be at COP and to our leaders as they gather. So we've got a beautiful collection of poems. We've got 100 or so messages that have come in from the public. We've got another few hundred messages from schools. And I think that if we're able to cobble together some more messages over this next month, we should have a really, really moving exhibition.
Yeah, hoping it's going to work. So yeah, thanks. So I'll move on now to Clare Mains, who works with Plymouth Energy Community but is also part of the Art and Energy Collective, and is working hard to support people in their use of energy and making decisions about how to use it and what to use. Aren't you, Clare?
We are, yeah. So if you haven't been to one of these before, I'm a project manager with Plymouth Energy Community, which is one of a few hundred community energy organisations in the country. And the theme being, you know, how do we help people stop their reliance on the use of fossil fuels is quite an interesting one. And it's a difficult one for us being a community organisation. So I thought, taking Simon's chat about metamorphosis, I'm going to nick that for a minute, Simon, because that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking for a metamorphosis, something from an energy setup that is not particularly fair, not particularly affordable, and most definitely not zero carbon. And trying to get to a place that's very different. So we know where we want to end up, but the way of getting there, I mean, it's going to take some work. So I thought I'll start as a sort of a high up view of what we do as a community organisation. We have sort of mini organisations under us. So there's Plymouth Energy Community, and then we have PEC Renewables. And as you might imagine, that's an organisation that looks at renewable energy and how we can encourage that in communities and have community ownership of that. So we have it's 32 or 33, and next time I come, I will know the actual number, but it's one of those on community buildings in the city. These were installed through community share offers, so there is some ownership. Obviously, the people within there are getting cheaper energy. It's good renewable source. So that's one of the things that we do. We have a ground-mounted solar array. Where we put the ground-mounted solar array, can't do anything else with it, ex-landfill. So also next to MOD land and within a blast zone. So you're not going to be, you know, you're not going to be building houses on it or anything. So that we have that there also, and that comes with a community benefit pot. We work on retrofit projects with community buildings, putting in LED lighting, insulation measures and the like. Another one of the smaller organisations under us, the newest, is called PEC Homes, and we're building truly affordable and zero carbon community-led homes because we want that sort of scale of change. We'll start small and hope that we can be, you know, an inspirational pilot, and things might follow. And then we do things like with art and energy and solar education, which is all about enabling people to get their hands on an alternative, because at the moment we don't have a lot to say, in all honesty, with what our energy providers do and what they decide. And half of making it accessible is letting people touch it, feel it, talk about it, and get to know it. So we do an awful lot of that. So that's a sort of higher up level. At a lower level, we work. I manage a team called the Energy Team, and they're really skilled, wonderful advisors who go out and about and into people's homes to support them if they're at risk of fuel poverty, particularly. Often people have long-term conditions or disabilities, but we will help anyone within Plymouth. We're a community organisation, so anyone who's got an energy issue or needs some support, will help them. On a sort of smaller scale, when you're in a home, we call it a domestic building, I don't want to get into that sort of language. When you're in a home, there are similar things that you can do. So we look at retrofit, which can be things like, you know, change your bulbs to LEDs. Lots of people got LEDs now, so, you know, not so much of that going on. Insulation is another big one, and we help people access grants so that they can use less. Basically, you don't have to use as much heat if your home retains it better. And then we have slightly more off-center things that we do. So one of the best ways to be sustainable is to reuse or recycle. So we have an arrangement with an organisation, community organisation called Collectrical, who do some fantastic work with white goods. So they'll take them in from HBH Willicott, huge company down here who sell new A-rated white goods, but Collectrical get the old ones that are removed, and they they recycle them. They make them brand spanking new. So not only will a grant get someone a new white good, but the old white good will be taken away, refurbished, and given to someone else. So it's that whole circular thing that we try and do. All of this sounds positive, and all of this sounds really doable. We know it's a massive scale of challenge, but the other thing I wanted to do is just show you a bit of context, because we talked about, you know, if a metamorphosis, and for the energy system to truly change, everybody has got to be involved. And when we say everybody, you're talking not just about those who are engaged or interested or have got the money to pay for that, but for people who are completely excluded generally from this sort of decision making or options, or even the finance to afford to join in. So I don't really want to end it on a downer, but I think it might set a context for Alistair. Sorry, Alistair. So we did a project with 4 families within Plymouth, and we didn't want it to be a tourist project. We didn't want to go in and take photographs and say, "Oh, look at this! It's fuel poverty. It's dreadful." We said, "Please show us what it means to you to live in fuel poverty," and that's exactly what they did. It's been put together in a video, so I'm just going to shush, and then you can see some of the context that we're working in. And that's the context. This is what we work within, and this is what we mustn't forget and what we mustn't leave behind.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks. And so, with that understanding, there are many people in fuel poverty, but also many more, and them needing eventually to come out of that use of fossil fuels. We have all got challenges, haven't we? So I'm going to hand over to Alastair now, and we'll have a very brief chat about that. Alastair. Hi. So your job primarily is about trying to get people to shift and to use less fossil fuels. How are you going about that generally?
Yeah, it's a good question, because in some ways I've sort of, this might be against what we're trying to talk about here, but one behaviour change is it. Lizzie, would you better close that door for a second? But is that a lot of my actual day-to-day, my role is less about behavior change in trying to suggest people to do certain things, and is actually trying to change the sort of physical environment they work in. So I do a lot of stuff around retrofit, try to do a lot of stuff around refurbishing buildings so they use less energy, trying to put electric vehicle charge points into the areas so that people can charge things there. And then we're trying to get more renewables onto the system, producing energy so that people can have electricity that's from renewables, mainly because behavior change is the really difficult thing to do. Not that the other things are easy, but it is really difficult to do. And I think one of the things that's going to make behavior change potentially work easier is having more of this arts discussion or an arts engagement with the behavior change conversation. And Claire, it was really good to have that video. You know, me and Chloe, well, I've moaned to Chloe for some time that we don't have imagery that conveys energy efficiency, the benefits of it, and all that kind of thing. And it's just great to see that, because that's exactly what we want, those evocative images to go behind the stories, because that's going to engage people to change their behaviors. But in terms of what we you know, with the work that I'm doing, I suppose that is around behavior change, and maybe more broadly coming from Devon County Council's point of view, you know, one of the things I think Devon is a real asset, is a real jewel in the rock or whatever, it is around community energy organisations. And I think they're fantastic, you know, bottom up, engaging people on a very local level, you know, with local issues, and it may be small groups, but that's perfectly sized, you know, because they'll slowly but surely grow, and you're having really valuable conversations with people in those small groups. So Devon County Council has been a keen supporter of community energy groups, and I think Devon, I always bandy this around, I've got no idea whether it's based on fact, but I think we've got one of the highest amounts of community energy organisations per sort of, for the size of the area in the country, really. And I'm not saying that's all Devon County Council, and it's definitely not down to the efforts of myself, but Devon County Council has luckily seen that as a really important, and that's through and I don't want to get political, but that's through a Conservative administration as well. And they really saw the community energy organisations were important, and we've been trying to support them as much as we possibly could. And I think that's really helped, because they do, as I say, they engage people at a local level. You get to have these conversations. There's the whole thing around the sort of literacy of low carbon lifestyles, you know, talking about smart meters, talking about cavity wall insulation, talking about solar PV, photovoltaics, and all of those kind of things, you know. And those are very detailed conversations and need to happen, you know, on a one-to-one or a group basis. And also that empowering, you know, getting people to say, okay, I'm going to put my £5 worth in, my £50, my hundreds, whatever. I'm going to help put that money into help PEC put renewables onto the grid, and other community groups as well. So they've been invaluable, really, and it's great that Devon County Council supported those, really. And I suppose now the bigger discussion is around the Devon Carbon Plan, and Devon County Council, my colleague Doug Eltham has been leading this in terms of trying to get a plan for Devon. You know, how are we going to change people's behaviours and other things, you know, within the area. And it's been great that they went down the route of having a citizens assembly. So getting, I think it's about 70 people randomly chosen within a certain age group, but randomly chosen to start really thinking about all of these difficult areas and these changes that are going to have to happen, and what needs to happen. And that's, you know, going through at the moment. And I think it's all been delayed because of COVID, but I would have thought later this year we should see the results of that coming through.
Great. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Alastair. And so there we are, that we need the infrastructure to help people shift, and we need all sorts of ways, including things like cycling instead of driving, and energy efficiency and turning lights off, and a whole host of things. But I'm glad that you think that the arts and a creative approach is also a way to explain and encourage and welcome and, you know, join in with the new ways
Definitely.
of being. So we'll finish on a positive note, but definitely the film that Claire showed was heart-rending in lots of ways. And I think from that energy thinking and the way in which we live from day to day and how we're using fossil fuels, we're now going to whip back into the moths and the creative approach, an artistic approach, and also that sort of really careful observation as well. So we'll go over to Sarah and welcome you to our broadcast, Sarah, and see what you have, your reflections, because I know you've got some on the work of this year in relation to moths.
Thank you. Hello. Yes, that was that video that you showed. To my mind, what strikes me most of all is the extraordinary contrast between that and actually what I'm seeing is here in Devon is more gleaming four-wheel drive SUVs than I've ever seen before. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's a paradigm shift happening. I do think the tide, I think we might be at slack water rather than the tide has turned. But I am pretty, you know, there's a long way to go, is what I'm trying to say. And I do think that I hope that by talking and by that creative people might be, as they often are and often have been, in the vanguard of shifting the sensibility.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do tonight is a little bit odd, a little bit different for me. I've been involved I've been making images of moths for about 3 or 4 years now. I've been making them for a lot longer than that. But in the last, basically since Extinction Rebellion really kicked off, I have made a personal commitment to completely dedicate my art career to, or my art work, and I've shifted the direction of my career to making works exclusively about moths and researching moths. And I sort of went on strike and decided I was actually only going to talk about my work in terms of moths and their catastrophic collapse in numbers and what that meant in terms of them being a canary in a coal mine for us. So actually what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to read you something a little bit performative, which is a bit unlike me, and maybe a bit poetic, so I hope you'll bear with me. But it's the culmination, really. This is the culmination of, it's about 3 or 4 years work. I have exhibitions up currently at Castle Howard in Yorkshire, Greenhill Arts on Dartmoor in Morton Hampstead, Rabley Gallery in Wiltshire. The moths have just flown off to Japan, believe it or not. They're just off to go to Japan. They've been shown in Cornwall, they've been shown in London. So I'm a printmaker. Sorry, I should have said that first. I'm a printmaker. So without further ado, because I know we're running behind already, I'm going to try and share screen. So bear with me while I do that bit, and then I will read you something while this happens. Okay, so Jenny, you might have to guide me through this. But I think
yeah, that's working, Sarah. It's not quite there yet, but it's just on its way.
Okay, sorry everybody, I'm not super conversant with this.
Doing a great job.
Is it doing it?
It's not there yet. It did take a moment or two earlier, didn't it, when we tried it?
I'm getting something about Gartner Magic Quadrant for meeting solutions. Shall I try again? You are screen sharing. Come on.
Yeah, maybe stop share and try again.
Stop
It hasn't come up yet.
Okay, let me just get maybe if I just get my photos up and then I go back to you and share screen, and then, sorry everybody.
Don't worry, we don't mind being a little bit late and all that.
Can you see that?
No, it's not screen sharing yet, so you still need to go through into share screen.
Am I sharing screen now?
No.
I've definitely pressed screen share. Okay, wait, is this it good now? It's just
thinking about it.
It's giving me something really weird. It's just giving me a load of stuff about.
Frustrate.
Pardon?
We went for everybody else. When we tried this earlier, it worked beautifully.
Yeah.
But Zoom has been doing something odd with the
Oh, there we are.
There we are.
Are we there?
Well done. Yes.
Okay. I'm really sorry. My apologies, everybody. That is almost certainly my fault. I'm not super conversant with this. Okay, so I mean, I hope this won't last longer than 5-10 minutes at the absolute outside.
Oh, don't. We looking forward to loving the idea of it. So
the images that you're going to see are Metz tints, which is a centuries-old form of engraving that I practice, and I'll talk a bit about that as well. So I think I'll just start. I've got somebody else's audio going on. I don't know what that's about. Never mind. Okay. Why moths? Oh, it won't let me change. It won't let me change. I hope I haven't got to do this every time. Okay. I've been asked this questions many times, and it's surprisingly hard to answer. Although I grew up and have always lived in the country, I'm neither a naturalist nor an entomologist. I've never had a childhood passion for insects, nor am I even what you might call a wildlife artist. The honest answer is that I didn't choose moths. They arrived in search of me, or better put, they emerged over a period of years. In the summer months, they became ever more present, ever more insistent, until there was no choice as such. They came out of the night with all their powdery fragility and found me. So the question for me was far more how to respond. Moths are misunderstood, overlooked, and still deeply unloved. There are few positive references to them in literature. Even the Bible refers to them negatively. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt. But hasn't the work of artists and poets always been to awaken our attention, to show us what is unseen and to love what is unloved? That work feels urgent now. Modern life is brightly lit, but our attention to the lives of so many creatures has largely slept, and the damage has been enormous. Since 1914, there have been around 60 moth extinctions in Britain alone. In the last 35 years, that's since the breakup of the Beatles, the overall numbers of moths on these islands has fallen by a third. Some, like the well-known garden tiger, this is an image of me printing a Metz tint of a garden tiger here, whose hairy caterpillars are the main food of our much-missed cuckoos. These moths have fallen by 80% or more. It seemed to me in these years of unfolding climate catastrophe, Extinction Rebellion, and the government's stubborn failure to step up and make the system changes we know unequivocally we must, that we on the ground have to start by opening our eyes. Opening our eyes because, to quote Rachel Carson, the more we can focus our attention on the wonders and realities of the universe about us, the less taste we shall have for destruction. Or put another way, we cannot save what we don't love, and we cannot love what we don't know. Mark Rylance has recently, the great Mark Rylance has recently said that the job of artists is to make us fall in love. So this is my response, my rebellion. If what I've been given is the ability to focus, to pay attention, and if there is even the remotest chance that in attending lies an antidote to our careless destruction, then that's what I have to do, to focus. It's not enough, but it is necessary. I believe that the slow death we deal the world by the sleep of our attention is disturbed, maybe even arrested by the reawakening of our attention. To notice is to rescue and to redeem. Again, you still might ask, though, why notice moths? Well, I see in the short lives of these quakers, ermines and tigers a glory that comes from their participation in the whole complex, entangled fabric of life. Their fragile winged emanations speak to us urgently of the dark, of the earth, of our own bones, of all we cannot see. Art, like poetry, is of little or no interest when it comes from the self, only when it comes from beyond. And the world is full of amazing things. This is a blotched emerald for those of you who haven't seen one of these before. Quite amazing. We can choose to remain ignorant, or we can sharpen our senses and allow our world to be altered. great gift of drawing is that one sits still. The hands are occupied, so the old chattering brain tends to calm down, and then all kinds of things reveal themselves. We so often believe ourselves to be so firmly at the center of the universe, we think that we have to be very active and interrogate appearances. What if instead of interrogating, we sit down quietly to draw and simply attend to what is there? In Taoist terms, let the 10,000 things come to you. Instead, interestingly, the verb to attend comes from the Latin ad plus tendere, which means to stretch out towards. Tendrils of meaning stretch out in all directions, to be present, to accompany, to take care of, to listen, to heed, to expect, to tend. An attentive stance towards the world is more humble, more open, and also much stranger and further from our everyday understanding, the more we realize the extent of our ordinary inattention. Beyond attention lies engagement, the sort of thing that the previous speakers have been talking about, but attention comes first. Drawing then becomes not only a way of speaking about the world, but also an engagement with the world. It's a way of bringing forth a world that refuses to be reduced to objects, but is laden with meaning. One last thing on engagement. In the recent Black Lives Matter protests, the expression "call me by my name" has come to the fore. This simple, powerful sentence, "call me by my name," resonated with me enormously. Those in power will often unname or rename or generalize those they wish to destroy, or even those from whom they see no profit or gain. Powerful colonizers from the church to the English consciously and deliberately extinguished or suppressed the native lexicons, plant names, animal names, myth and stories in the countries they wish to control. There is, from Ireland to the First Nations people in America, a groundswell to reclaim that heritage. And I would like to point out that the practice started at home. For hundreds of years, well before Linnaeus and his systemization, there were English and local names for everything in the more than human world, from plants to moths. These names have a poetry to them, and I believe them to be part of our heritage. And I have insisted that they be on the wall wherever the moth mezzotint have been exhibited. It is my hope that they may be part of the re-enchantment. Mezzotint, on the other hand, I did choose. It is a centuries-old method of tonal engraving on copper. Mezzotint is a labour of love. I was drawn to it as a method in the first place because of its difficulty. It's slow, it's gradual, and it's difficult. And there are very few opportunities to impose oneself or to splash gesture and ego. Beyond that, the gradual drawing forth of the moth from the darkness seemed a perfect matching of method to subject. The method itself holds meaning for me somewhere in its ability to speak both literally and poetically of the moths being neither present nor absent, but always both, here and not here. The sincerity of things in constant transformation, appearing and disappearing perennially through one another as cycles of birth and death, unfurling their generations. Inside becoming outside, outside, inside. It's not giving me my last slide, so I'll just carry on. Also, because I'm working in mirror and from dark to light and without line, there are in the long hours of making many when it is not at all clear if I am drawing forth or if the moth is revealing herself. There's much more of a play, a conversation between those two possibilities than there is with some other media. And I value that exchange more than I can say. So if I stop sharing there, then you're just back to me. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you. That was wonderful. And the end of one element of your work for the year.
It's been an incredible project. I was warned off making pictures of insects but it's actually led me to some of the most amazing people I've met in my life. Wonderful conservationists, botanists, entomologists, all of whom have been very welcoming to a rank outsider, an artist. So it's
yeah, thank you, Sarah, and we look forward to seeing you in the morning if you catch some moths, because I know you have your old trap outside, and but I know it's going to be pretty wet as well, so we'll see, as is the case for Sarah Shuttleworth, who is now in the gloaming in Somerset. Hi, Sarah.
Hi there. I know that we're running behind, so I won't go for too long. Just to say, yeah, my name's Sarah Shuttleworth, but you also might know me on Twitter as Mighty Moth Girl, which is something I created last year. I'm actually a botanist and I work for Plant Life, running the National Plant Monitoring Scheme. But in 2018, I suddenly became very passionate about moth trapping and mothing, and have really taken to it and became slightly obsessed, I would say. So I'm here tonight at a campsite in Somerset, and I've set up my trap here, as you can see behind the tent, which I know we were talking about bulbs earlier. So I would normally be using a mercury vapor Skinner trap that I've got, which I inherited from somebody. However, I recently this year purchased an actinic eco trap. So it's a Robinson, but it's an actinic. So I'm slowly trying to transition away from the mercury vapor bulb and to use the actinic only, so it'll be interesting to see. I've also already found one moth, which you can't see very well because it's a bit dark now, but it's a magpie moth. And funnily enough, it wasn't from the trap, it was from the toilet block at the campsite. Always a good place to start looking for moths, anywhere that's got a light left on all night. I'm also an artist, and I do a lot of wildlife art, and in particular I have done a lot of moth paintings myself. Don't get as much of a chance as I'd like to. I even had a moth tattoo done this year, put on my back, a garden tiger, which are my favourites. I don't know if I can share the picture. I won't be able to show you because it's pitch black now, but I think I might be able to show you the picture if I can do that. So yeah, hopefully that should show. There we go. So that's the tattoo that I had done this year. So yeah, and the tattooist, who's an artist, he was really keen to do it and really enjoyed it. I like to sort of see myself as well as a bit of a moth ambassador, because a lot of my friends and family who aren't into nature at all, I like to convert them by using the wondrous world that is moths, because they're not all brown, they don't all fly in your face like most people think, and actually they can be more beautiful than butterflies, in my opinion anyway. And that's me. I'm in Somerset, and I'll hand over now to the next person.
Yeah, thank you Sarah. I hope you sleep well in your campsite, and look forward to seeing what you find with your actinic bulb, and sooner or later we might get to see a little bit more of your drawings and paintings of moths. But thank you for sharing this. In this broadcast we have art of all descriptions popping up in places. We're going to have a bit more just at the very end from Jenny, but now we're handing over to Simon Stennet, who's new to our broadcasts, who is also a moth-er, but also a birder, but also got various interesting thoughts about metamorphosis. We'd love to hear them, Simon, and yeah, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'm outside in my back garden, and I haven't got my moth trap running just here. What I would be running is a heath trap with a little actinic light. What I did do is I quickly turned on my light, and it looks rather like I'm about to tell a ghost story. But far from it, talking about metamorphosis, it's a really exciting part of insects' sort of life cycle. And thinking about, why do insects go through this crazy life cycle of egg to larvae to pupa to adult? And what they're doing is they're trying to maximize the number of niches that they can inhabit during their life cycle. So the larva is eating something completely different to the adult. Now, it makes a lot of sense, and it gives them a huge amount of evolutionary advantage. But the whole process of metamorphosis is shrouded in mystery. What happens inside that pupa for a caterpillar to become an adult moth? I mean, it's really quite amazing to go from this tubular globby thing into this very beautiful and patterned adult. Well, if you've ever had the misfortune to squish a pupa, you'll know that it's basically this weird gloopy soup. And that's essentially what happens. It goes into the cocoon, it spins itself cocoon, and the whole body dissolves. Enzymes come out and they dissolve the body. But there's certain bits of the caterpillar's body that don't dissolve, and they've been there since the caterpillar was even inside the egg. And these are called imaginal discs and imaginal cells. Now, I love the word imaginal. It sounds as if it's imagining its future self as an adult, but actually it is probably a corruption of the word imago, which is what adult insects are called. Now, these imaginal discs and imaginal cells hold the blueprint for the adult in the future and the cells. And each imaginal disc will hold the blueprint for a different organ, whether it's the antennae, the eyes, the legs, the wings, you name it. Each part of organ of the body has an imaginal disc. And there are also some imaginal cells floating around in this soup. Now, the body of the insect actually tries to kill this stuff off with its own immune system, but they somehow manage to persist, and they get together and they communicate and they grow. And each of these individual discs gets on and makes its own organs, but gradually they start to connect, and the imaginal cells in between create this wonderful adult insect. So that's what they are. That's what that's essentially how it works. You go in from this place where you have a caterpillar, it gets completely dissolved. These little discs that provide the absolute blueprint for life are they continue to be there, and then they grow and connect. And I think it's a bit of a metaphor. We were talking about metamorphosis being something which is really important and powerful in terms of communities and how we rise to the climate crisis. And I think it's, if we think of ourselves as people who are informed, we're holding information. Are we imaginal cells? Are we imaginal discs ourselves, going out there and starting to connect together and thinking about how we can transform communities and how we can transform the world around us, so we can start to rise to the climate and ecological crisis. I think that's really the main thing I wanted to say, and I think maybe I've caught up with some time here, because it's for me it's a fairly simple story of how the caterpillar becomes a moth, although it does belie a lot of incredibly complex stuff underneath it. But hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into how the metamorphosis happens, and why I think it's really important for us to think of ourselves maybe as these kind of imaginal cells, holding those blueprints, those connections, building up. And even if we are those little islands, we'll start to connect. And when we start to connect, we'll make something really powerful.
Oh, that's great, Simon. I think of the Moths to a Flame project a bit like that. It's holding some form of blueprint, or it's an imaginal cell in itself, but it's attracting others, or anyway, yeah, a lovely sort of metamorphosis for the whole thing.
Yeah, I tried to avoid the whole sort of tongue twister around metaphor. I've done it already. Metamorphosis and metaphors. Avoid that like the plague.
Yeah, no, but I did actually. Chloe said that you've been talking to her about this, and I did actually talk to some young people this morning at a adventure playground. We were making moths, and I trapped some moths and so on. But we did have a discussion about caterpillars turning into moths, and they got so excited they ran around trying to find caterpillars. They found some cinnabar caterpillars, and then the moth tree that I had in the shed in this place suddenly had all these caterpillars hanging and up the trunk, because they registered, A, they were moths, and B, they were important, you know. So thanks to you for reminding us of that, well, or revealing that, and we'll certainly take it forward. So we look forward to seeing, you made a film with Chloe about the moths that you found. You did trap some moths, didn't you, last week or something? So we'll be seeing that tomorrow morning and enjoying the moths that you find there. So thank you.
Yes,
and maybe hearing a bit more about what work the other work you do, but we'll leave that for now. And
okay.
and see, are you going to be there in the morning? I'm just double checking actually.
I'm not sure I am, but
All
I'll,
right, okay.
if I can manage to be around, I will do.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly say what you do in the?
Well, of course. Well, yeah, I didn't do an intro, but like Sarah did, because I was so preoccupied in getting the story right around metamorphosis, of course. No, so yeah, I'm at Simon, and I'm the area manager for the RSPB covering the West Country. So I lead our sort of operational work in the West Country. I've been working in conservation for the last 30 years, and I'm still very much an amateur mother. It's something I do. I get the moth trap out when it's a really nice, warm, muggy evening, and hope for a bumper trap to get the kids excited. That's the main reason I do my moth trapping. And I'm not a birder either. I know that's probably, I shouldn't be saying that for the RSPB. I'm just somebody who grew up in nature, absolutely loves it, and feels that the ecological crisis is something we just absolutely have to nail. It's an incredibly important mission, and that's what gets me. That's kept me working in conservation for the last 30 years.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in whatever form tomorrow morning, and your imaginal blueprint cell, and we will finish with just a couple of minutes, maybe a little bit more, because Jenny, our colleague who manages the whole techie side of this, as well as 100 other things, has been working on some really exciting bits of art that we're going to take up to Glasgow. So Jenny, what have you got to show us?
So I've remembered to unmute myself, which is always the bit I'm saying to everyone, don't forget to unmute, and there I am forgetting. So when I first met Chloe and Naomi, and they said that they worked with renewable energy, and in particular solar panels, and I thought, I know nothing about that. I'm a glass artist. Yes, they're built onto a sheet of glass, so I know a bit about that, no idea about the stuff that happens on the back. And then they handed me one of these, which is the solar cell, which goes inside the solar panel. And I think it's really exciting what Simon was saying then about kind of those narratives that help you to understand something that you thought was way out of your interest, way out of your comfort zone. And then somebody hands you something or explains something as a story, and that really helps to engage and to get you to understand something, a concept that you just really thought would be out of your way. Anyway, so I then joined Chloe and Naomi, and we've been having fun making solar artworks, which are artworks, paintings with integrated solar cells, which actually generate a charge and do something. And I just think it's so exciting. So one of the things we've been doing during lockdown since COVID is to send out these packs of goodies, and in them they've got all sorts. They've got paintbrushes, which are hiding in the back, marker pens, paints, templates and instructions. And in these packs, which is a Moths to a Flame artwork that I've been making, I'm going to show you in a moment. I've got the real thing here, but I'm a bit nervous about picking it up and dropping it because I'm clumsy. So I'm going to show you a video of it instead. There was also a square of clear perspex. And so let's do a share screen. So we invited 24, although actually 25 with Naomi as well, 25 people to decorate their sheet of perspex with a painting which represented in some way energy for them. And it's amazing the variety that came through. Now these were painted by a whole mixture of people, community group members during group sessions. We also did some Zoom sessions where people joined us online to learn how to do it, some in person, and as I say, some posted out to individuals as well. So each of these squares has been painted by a different individual, and within their painting they've left this little rectangle which into which I've added a solar. And so this, when they're all put together, this is the solar artwork. And in the center, Naomi's decorated a beautiful moon, which some of the solar cells are powering a little clock mechanism behind there. This was today out in the sunshine. Some of the others are going to be charging a battery. I haven't quite got that sorted yet, but I did just about see. I did today get it so it was lighting up some little LEDs. I need to do a bit more work on the battery charger. But it's actually charging during the daylight. In fact, let's stop share and I will pick this up so you can see it. So this artwork we'll be taking it up to Glasgow, and it will form an A-frame to go outside of the Botanic Gardens as one way of starting the conversation with people. Now, there's no sunlight in here at the moment, it does look pretty bright, but these 4 at the top are charging the clock mechanism, and then there's 20 more around the outside which will be powering the battery, charging the battery, and the batteries will then be able to power elements of the installation. And so this is just one of the things that we are really keen on doing, is empowering people, giving them that hands-on experience, creating community energy, really literally towards a better world and change, and just demonstrating that as a collective, when we're all together, we can create something amazing. And on that note, I am now going to share the Moths to Flame website. So just a reminder that we're back again in the morning, 8 till 9 a.m. Please do, if you haven't yet, check out the moths-to-a-flame.art website. There's loads of free ways to get involved, including, as Chloe and Naomi were talking about earlier on, making your moth. There's instructions on there and a template and so on. Sharing your message, recording your message, loads of information on there. Please share it with friends, neighbours and so on. And we've also been adding to the news section. So there's all sorts for people who have been very dedicated to the project. We've been sending them Golden Moth Awards, all sorts of information on there about what's happening. And the project really is going from strength to strength and spreading its wings and taking flight. So please do check it out and get involved. And otherwise, we'll see you back 8 till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Same link. Please do join us.
Bye-bye, everybody. Sleep well, and hope for some lovely moths in the morning. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.